Yeah. No, for me it was more so. Yeah, I don't even know why I thought I was the shit. I guess because I had the podcast.
I don't know.
I had good grades. Like, what do you base your ego on at that point? You know?
Yeah. I mean,
your work ethic, maybe.
Work ethic. Yeah, I definitely prided myself on my work ethic at that point.
Yeah,
I still do, but like.
Yeah, same. I think that's again still one of my only saving graces. Sometimes, if I, and especially it comes around this time of year when it like gets dark early or whatever, and then if this sitting at home editing while you're being productive and you're working, but you're also home alone, kind of in a room in the dark type of thing, right?
Yeah. It's tough.
And so the only thing that you can really like give yourself is like, yeah, but I'm working. You know what I mean? But I'm doing the work, right?
Yeah, the editing stuff is tough, man. It's so nice when you're in a theater environment, when you're like trying out new ideas and you're testing things out. There's like 10, 15 other people there who will give you affirmation, will like talk to you about what they think worked, what they think didn't work. And it's like this really great collaborative effort. And then there's something just about like being alone in a dungeon basement working on stuff, and then like exporting a file and sending it over to the director. And just even when I was working with you on the No Thoughts stuff, I would like do all of this work, I would export it, I would send it over, and I would go upstairs and I would sit on the couch with my wife and be like, I'm just waiting for him to like text me and be like, this is trash, like like none of this is good, like I can't believe, and it's very difficult to work in that environment when you're like an editor like that.
You still have those insecurities. I'm
totally.
not trying to,
100% every day.
And
it's like I've learned to I've gotten a little bit better about not projecting those things, which I think really helps. Like I think people work better in collaborative environments when the people that they're working with appear like confident and reliable and like and trusting and like all of those things I think are great things to put out there. But like even if you're feeling those insecurities inside, it's not really that great to show them too much, because I feel like sometimes it sinks the morale. And
yeah, as much as you want to be able to relate to other people's with insecurities, it like you said, it's better to relate on maybe some more confident structure, foundational pieces of you, so that way it brings out the the best of everybody on set.
And it's like I feel I share those insecurities with people that I have like really long, strong relationship, like artistic collaborative relationships.
Really, and that's what I was wondering is like, so even the people that you have worked with and established
I will show them my insecurities.
Oh, you will show them?
I will.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I like, like I have some collaborators down in DC that I've worked with for a very long time. And like, those are the kind of people that like, I'll crack open a beer at the end of the night and just be like, is anything I'm doing good? And like, like, please tell me something I'm doing is amazing. Cause like, I need something right now to just like, keep me going.
Right.
Or if I'm on set with like my buddy Doug that I do these movies with, like he and I we may not share them with like other people on the crew just because we want to like, like I was saying, keep morale up. But sometimes it's just like, is this even funny? Like, like, well, it's okay in those moments, because I know that person, they don't need to see me being confident. Like they know that I'm like, that I'm showing up, I'm doing work and all that.
And they can support you
when
you're feeling that, and then reassure you. You need that reassurance, right?
And vice versa.
So when they're feeling down a little bit. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Articulate. Tom Carman. We kind of just jumped into it.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, first of all, you are a god. Did you know that?
I'm a what?
A god.
Who said I'm a
Dude, you put together on Falling, the sound was so bad.
Oh.
Dude, I like when you
you
sent back the first cut and she started talking, I was like, are you serious? He made this, it was a boom mic. We tried, and there was AC on, there was, the whole, as bad as the audio could be, probably. And then she starts talking, I'm like, this sounds amazing. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was, it was great. It was a fun thing. I mean, like, Isotope. Do you know Isotope? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what that is.
It's the like the AI software that they have nowadays. If you know how to use it, like I was blown away by how good that was able to sort of help me out with that sort of stuff. but like I said, don't ever send me camera scratch audio ever again.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, no, it's thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, no, it was great. So Tom and I, we got connected through like a friend of a friend. That just I was looking for a sound person for, my bigger No Thoughts project, and I wanted it to be really good. So I was, seeking kind of professional help. And so there was, I got some recommendations like these are some people in Philly that are starting out, and then these are some people that are really established over like in LA, and and somehow I got so lucky with you, man. Like I mean, we can kind of get into all the work that we did on that, but yeah, I think the way that one thing that just right off of the bat, I didn't know anything about sound, and you were like, these are the stages of how I would edit this. It starts with cleaning up just the dialogue, right, and just making that sound good. And so you were very like proactive in helping somebody who knew nothing about it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a huge job of sound in like all aspects of the filmmaking process, because outside of the sound department, I feel like everyone is like, I know nothing about sound, and like I'm intimidated by it, and like
because it's so important too.
It's so important,
right?
Yeah, it's like it's so important, and like like I think it's really important to explain, especially to directors who haven't necessarily worked with a sound designer before in post, that like it is a lengthy process. That's a lot that goes into it, and like it's important that they understand the steps that you're working on, so that they know where they can participate in the process. Because like in the very beginning, it's like, why don't you hang out for like a week, because I'm just going to be doing all of this like technical like fixing up of the dialogue and stuff. That's objective. I'll bring you back in once we get to the subjective stuff. And,
okay. Yeah, all the clean stuff. So you started out going to college for theater?
Yeah. So I went to CUA down in DC.
Okay. Was there anything before that you did in high school, or like did you
theater?
Love film? And okay,
not really actually. I mean, like
I hate movies. Actually,
I hate movies. Yeah, I've never seen one. No, I mean, I always liked movies, and like I watched all the movies that like were like Anchorman and all this stuff that was really popular when I was in high school, and definitely got like a little into like some of the German stuff, and like I remember like seeing The Seventh Seal and being like, oh, this is like the artsy side of film.
Okay.
But I never really got into like cinema and like the frame and lighting and all that stuff.
Right.
I was definitely much more of a theater guy. So yeah, I was in
high school. You did
high school
theater.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the school plays.
Oh, nice. Did you do like? Were you in the plays, production, or
performing?
Performing.
Always performing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like strictly performer up until like I was 27 or so.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, so I did performing in high school. I went to college for theater, and it was like a comprehensive study. Like it wasn't just like acting.
Even if you want to be an actor, if you're majoring in theater, I'm sure they make you learn all the
production 101 and design 101.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was there, I stage managed a play, which is are you familiar with that? Like,
isn't that is that a director or
no,
like showrunner?
So it's like a showrunner. Yeah. It's the person who calls all this, like the lights and sound cues. It's the person who makes sure that like people are at their places at the right time.
Yeah.
And I got to work hand in hand with the lights and sound designers.
Okay.
And from that point on, I was like, oh, like this is where all the magic is happening. Like it's actually like here.
Yeah.
And I had a great sound designer that I worked with, Alicia Itup, who is a very accomplished sound designer in New York now. And she was like super patient, and she it was like 200 called sound cues, which is like a massive amount.
Sure.
And very like somebody sticks their hand out and it's like, boom, you got to go on the sound right away. It's like in order to make sure like it syncs up. And that really like made me super curious about like being on the sound designing side of things in general.
Yeah, on a smaller scale. I mean, the magic. I mean, I make these videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes you watch the video without the actual mic sound.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is a video. Like, this is a terrible video. This is not. But the magic comes through, with the sound quality. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get a sound guy on a podcast and to talk about stuff like that, and I'll go on for forever.
Yeah.
But like, my buddy was telling me the other day about they did they put two things side by side. One, it was the same exact video. One of them was shot on a Red, and one of them was shot on an iPhone.
Mm.
The one that was shot on a Red, they used the camera scratch audio, and the one on the iPhone, they used like a professional sound mixer to record the audio.
Sure.
And they asked people which video quality is better,
Whoa.
and everyone said the iPhone one was better.
Whoa.
So like it just speaks to like audio makes the video look good.
Yeah.
It's like essential that the audio is
That's
good for it
crazy.
to. Yeah, it's kind of wild.
So yeah, so you found your love while doing some
Yeah,
working on a play.
working on a play. And then after graduating, I was acting in DC. I moved to Brooklyn. I was acting in Brooklyn, which like the acting life in New York is rough. It's a grind.
I was wondering.
Yeah, it's not fun at all. I don't recommend it.
Isn't it beautiful and like artistic and like inspiring?
They pay you $0 to like to do, you know,
You're
to give up
eating the
8 weeks
garbage
of
that
your
somebody
life.
threw
Yeah,
on the street.
it's terrible. But I started doing sound design there for theater as a way to like broaden my my skill set, but also to to have a skill set within the theater that pays more for less of your time.
Right.
And then when I moved to Philly, I kind of was doing like split. I was like half actor, half sound designer for theater.
Mm.
And
Is
that's
there a reason you moved to Philly?
my wife got into Pig Iron, which is a great MFA program here in Philly. It's a clown school.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, no, it's like a super legit. It's like the best one in the States.
Do you know Baskets?
Baskets? No.
Oh,
is that like a movie? Or?
No, it's this show with Zach Galifianakis where he wants to be a professional clown.
Oh, okay.
And he goes to this school in France that's like the biggest.
Lecoq? Is
yeah,
it Lecoq? That's
Lecoq, yeah.
So that's the like the training that they have at Pig Iron.
Okay.
So all of the people that teach there are like were trained at the Lecoq Institute, or I don't know what the official term is in
Right.
France, but like they studied there and they come over and they're teaching Lecoq to like
Wow.
American actors.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny because he doesn't know French and he goes
Sure.
to the school.
Yeah. I mean, he's great. Zach Galifianakis is
You are
great.
not a clown. That's
Yeah,
what,
you are not a clown.
No, that's cool. That's real. I need to have your wife on to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's oh my god, that program. I feel like I sort of got to grow so much from her going through that program because they called me. What did they say? It was like an unofficial, like 15th member of the cohort
Oh, really?
because they knew that I was involved in theater. They knew that I was a sound designer. They knew that I was a composer. So they would bring me in to either outside eye, which is kind of like directing, but that's what they in the sort of devised theater that they do. That's what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Or be like I was the sound designer on a bunch of their projects, and I got to witness my wife going through it, and all of the people in that cohort who are now friends of mine. I got to learn a lot from it, and it's a wild pedagogy and a really cool, like it for all those actors that are stuck in their head in the sort of like Stanislavski American style of acting, which is like, I need to feel my emotions in order for it to communicate to the audience member. All the physical stuff that I saw them do there is like totally the opposite. It's like contort your body in a way that looks sad and like people will understand sad.
Really? It's just about physicalities.
100% about physicalities.
Wow.
And what's funny is that my wife has always been a huge proponent of like, why are you working so hard to develop all this stuff and work on all this Stanislavski stuff? Like, just go out there and say the line. And I was always on the other end of it, and we always sort of like battled about it. And then I saw her go through this program, and I was like, I still think that like my thing has merit to it, but like you're definitely right. Like
Really?
I definitely see your side of it. Yeah.
Wow. So
totally.
Just being able to understand the characteristics of what a sad person looks like.
Yeah, it's
and not even so in there. They don't have to like channel their most painful memory or anything like that.
Yeah, you don't need to like recall. I forget what the. It's not. Was it Meisner?
Yeah,
where
it's like
you do
did
the
the
repeating
Meisner
stuff and
well, and even Meisner was a separation from
Stanislavski, right?
Yeah, because he wanted you to find the most painful memory and then build off of that. Whereas Meisner, they do fantasies, which is just imagining a painful thing.
Sure.
So it's not even necessarily a real thing, but you're still putting.
You're still like feeling the emotion. It's
Right.
important that like you're internalizing and feeling the emotion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not sure I buy that anymore. I was
My
I
life
was
is a
way
lie.
I mean, I was way into that when I was in college, and I thought
Sure.
it was gospel.
Well, I mean,
And
so I went when I was, I think, 23 to 24 to 5-ish. And that was, in that period, your brain starts finally developing
yep,
towards the later end. And the last things that develop is your control of emotions.
yeah,
And so in that school, it was happening around the same time for me. And I think it was really beneficial. I mean, for acting, sure, if you're trying to go that direction, right? But
hmm
also with just, handling your emotions in general. You know what I mean? Like it was good at just keeping a tap on them, like understanding what you're feeling while you're feeling it,
yeah,
being present with those mood swings and emotions.
hmm
So there are benefits, regardless of that, how it
yeah.
translates with acting.
I think I'd feel better if the person at the helm was like a licensed therapist, though.
Right,
Like
yeah.
some of those things, like
Because they're just
there's
going to
some
put you
pretty
through.
heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
you moved down to Philly, and at that point, you decided to start just doing half and half.
Yeah, so I was doing half and half. I really loved. I mean, really, it came down to finances too. At a certain point,
Well, that's kind of what I thought the reason was going to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
What Philly?
Well, you're like, I just can't afford New York. I was
Yeah,
eating
I
scraps.
mean, we were so burnt out. We were done. So Philly was like, yeah, better quality of life for the amount of money that we were making. More of a possibility to be doing the arts and staying afloat.
Mm,
Not struggling as much as we were in New York.
sure.
Um, yeah, and so I was able to design a bunch more. I got to do a couple shows where I was the sound designer and like did a full score for all the work that I was doing.
So was that part of your curriculum, or like when did you start making music too?
I mean, I was in a band in high school.
Okay, see,
Like,
that counts.
yeah, like, yeah. So I
I
like
mean, they all tie into each
they
other.
all tie into each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned guitar when I was like 15,
Okay.
and that was
Indie rock.
yeah, sure.
Easy like indie rock.
Like
Right?
indie rock.
Sufjan Stevens. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sufjan. Like Dashboard. Like,
Sure.
speaking of emotions and not knowing how to process them.
Yeah, true. That's
Um,
when I need to do a sad scene. I just put
yeah.
on Kazimierz Pulaski Day. That's
Yep.
what. Yeah.
Yeah. So and with the dawn of like GarageBand and being able to sort of just do MIDI stuff on your computer really easy, like I started doing like orchestral scores just for fun, like and it's so accessible.
It's so fun to
Yeah,
just
it's
sit
great.
down and make orchestral scores. I don't know
Yeah.
who would have thought of that, but actually it does. I'm sure if I sat down and like looked at the process and tried to learn it, that would be amazing. But it's just again not something that I would you think to do, and you just sat down and
Well, and this goes back to even earlier than all of that. Like I've always been, ever since I was like, I think I was like 3 or 4. Like
Mhm.
my mom always says that she started to notice signs of like me being very like musically focused about things.
Okay.
Like I think we were watching The Little Mermaid, and like I went over to the piano, and I didn't know how to play piano, but I was like plucking it out on the piano,
Wow.
and she was like, "Oh, okay, like
This is
he
the main
gets
thing.
he gets music, like that's a
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
language he speaks."
Which is the fact that it's a language. I mean, this is kind of a tangent, but it really is. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I. So we're talking about depression earlier, right?
Mhm.
Is one of the things when I was going through COVID around that 21, 22 age, it was, I was like just cooped up in the house living the same day over and over again. I'm like,
Yeah.
how can I think different thoughts? And I just put on, some Mozart. I never listened to Mozart or like Beethoven. And it was just they just take you through a different thought process by inputting
Yeah.
this language of music to make you
Yeah.
think different things and feel different things.
I mean, I think that music has like a direct pathway to emotions that like nothing else in our experience and nothing else in our life has.
Yeah.
You listen to, I mean, one of my favorite scores is The Lion King.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
Okay.
like I hear that music and like I am immediately transported back to like, everything that I'm feeling in the moment in that
Get that
film and what
Ratatouille
happens.
moment.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and I mean, it's, you go and you watch, like I've seen like the side by sides of like, oh, like this is what the Lion King scene feels like without any music in it.
Right.
And it's just like, it falls so flat. And then
Yeah.
like you listen to it with the music and it's like, oh my God, like that's where the emotion, that's why I'm having,
Yeah,
this
the
is what I'm
magic.
having an emotional response to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
The magic, right? So okay, so then you're in Philly, doing half.
Hmm.
Just sat. Were you just like contracting or
All freelance.
all freelance?
Yeah, I worked a lot at this theater out in Mount Airy called Quintessence Theater,
Mm,
acting and sound designing out there.
okay,
Both of them, freelance. You get signed on for a project and you finish up the project and then that's it.
sure,
Yeah, and then we were doing pretty good. The pandemic hit, and my wife and I were both like looking for a change.
sure.
Because like even though I was making more money as a sound designer, it's still, I was still
Yeah,
waiting tables and still struggling.
sure.
And that's when I found my way into production sound mixing.
Okay,
So my good friend Sean, who lives in Brooklyn, has been a production sound mixer for I think a little more than 10 years now. And he was basically just like, listen, like if you're trying to take control of your finances, you're trying to like, stay in the arts world in a way that like,
it's stable,
is stable.
right?
He was like, I think you'd be really great at this. I think you have a lot of the skill set already for
Mhm.
it. Um, and sound mixer is like one of those things that they're kind of always in demand. As long as film is filming, people are always looking for a good sound mixer.
There's so many stories I've heard of in many such
Yep.
cases, whereas people are like, I want to do film, but the sound people always need sound guys, so I just picked that up, and now I work on film all the time.
That's like such a common story for sound mixers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went on set with him. I boom opped on a short film. Um, and I was ready to like love the sound aspect of everything, like
Because you saw the magic.
because I've seen the magic, but what
Mhm.
I was sort of really surprised by was like the community of film.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I went onto the set for 2 days, and like the second day, I was like, this is like a new family of mine. Like
Yeah,
these 10 people who like were holed up in an Airbnb together and
right.
making art together, and I just really loved that.
Yeah, and then afterwards, you never talk to him again.
I mean, like that happens, but like
Yeah.
no, you're right. I'm not gonna talk to any of them.
No, but it's
Um,
great. I mean, it's kind of what we were talking about before. How there's these lots of different worlds within the art,
mhm.
especially within film, and one of them being the on-set experience, which there is nothing comparable to that experience at all. Like
Yeah.
there, we and I bring this up a lot, but there's a shoot that I was on a couple of months ago, and it's 3 a.m. and it's 26 degrees outside,
Yeah.
and we're all tired. It's like the fourth day of shooting, 12-hour shoots.
Right.
And he's like, you know why we're here, right? And I'm like, what? Why? And he's like, because we love it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, man. Yeah, we do love
Well,
it.
I think that's Tarantino, right? You ever heard that?
No.
I think I've heard somewhere that like when Tarantino's on set and like, you're getting like your 12th different angle of coverage of the same thing, and you're in hour 15 and everyone's like bleeding,
Yeah.
and he'll call out to the crew. He'll say like, all right, we're going to go in close and we're going to do another setup. Why? And everyone on set has to go, because we love film. And it's like, all right, like, I don't know, but
I don't know if I would go that
I don't know
far to
about
make
that.
everybody.
um,
That's
yeah,
hilarious. I had never heard that.
yeah, it's kind of wild.
Hmm.
I should say, I'm a big proponent of like 12-hour days and like, like really like safe onset practices and
Yeah,
like,
of course.
and all that stuff. And I think you can do that without compromising like the work. I think
Sure.
you can have a beautiful onset family,
Mm.
and also just like, there have been I mean, like just recently I was on set for like 17 hours on a project, and it's like too much. And
That's a
like,
lot. That's too
like
much.
the gaffer was like so tired and like lights were falling, and it's like, this is what happens when you get to hour 17.
Yeah.
Um,
That's where you need more pre-production. That's where
yeah,
you need.
yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, definitely. So, but you were on that. Was that first set? What was that? Oh,
So
okay.
he was basically just like, I think you'd like this. I think you should come on set with me and boom op.
Okay.
So he was running the mixer, the wires, all
Mhm.
that stuff. He was doing the full job. He just sent me like, I was the one holding the boom.
Yeah.
So I could
It was
just get
kind
a
of
sense
training.
of,
Yeah.
yeah. And it
Mhm.
was really like a trial run to see if it was something that would work for me.
Right.
And it did.
And
I was so hooked.
was it a professional short film or was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was. I mean, it's made its way into festivals. It was. I mean, the DP was like super talented.
Okay.
And it was. I think they're NYU kids.
Okay. Sure.
And kids. I mean, they're the same age as me. The
Yeah.
NYU like incredibly established filmmakers. And like a really great collaborative set, and they've gone on to do like, bigger and better stuff. And
Right.
so I was also very fortunate that my first sort of experience, wasn't one of those like train wreck, sets where, things are falling apart. Like it was a really nice, well-oiled machine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was very, very
And so
fortunate
from
to miss
there,
that.
you were like, I want to do this.
Yeah, and so I like started talking with him about like building out my kit, which is such an important part of that process.
And what is the kit?
uh, what are the standard aspects of a kit, or what's the specific gear in my kit?
I've never. Oh, okay. So it's just you call your kit your
Oh, the gear that I use to record
to
sound.
record.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So you've got your mixer recorder.
Sure.
You've got your boom mic and your boom pole, which
Right.
is gonna, sends the
The
boom.
main thing.
Yeah. Your lavs, which is, you have a wireless system with transmitters and receivers.
Right.
You want to get the right bag to sort of sit them in properly. You need to get a harness so that like it's, sitting on your body the right way.
So you immediately started building this kit.
Yeah, and he, I mean, like he pointed me in the right direction right away about
Good
like,
stuff.
you buy he helped me to make sure that I wasn't buying any gear that I was going to outgrow in like 2 months and then
Yeah.
think like, I wish I had gotten the better thing.
Right.
And then, yeah, pretty much like from then on, within a year, I think from then, or I think it was less than a year, I was like full-time sound mixing.
Full-time sound mixing.
Full-time sound mixing.
It was that quick.
It was that quick.
Yeah.
And I was like getting onto like, I was shooting stuff for NFL Plus. I had done some commercials down in Delaware. Was working with a production company that was like flying me out to Omaha and Nashville. And
Nice.
so like it all kind of happened really quickly. I was able to go full time. And I should say two different things. There's like corporate commercial sound mixing and then like narrative sound mixing. I was still doing narrative sound mixing and I love doing narrative sound mixing, but really like what really sort of set me forward was the corporate stuff.
Right.
Because it was, it pays great. And it was like, you work one day and you
When they have that professional standard of
Yep.
making it smooth or a decent on-set experience. This is a commercial that we're shooting in a studio that we've shot a bunch of other commercials in or
Yeah.
something like that. You know what I mean? It's like we've done this before. We know what we're doing. Come on and bring the gear and do the job,
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
yeah, that's kind of where I am now. That part of my career has sort of like really sort of like it took off and it's been nice and steady.
Mhm.
And then, every once in a while I'll jump onto a project to do sound mixing for projects that I believe in, for collaborators that I love working with.
Yeah, so you and your buddy have a production company.
Yeah, so my buddy Doug Williams, we have a production company called Rabbit Rabbit.
Okay.
So he's a writer director. He and I we met in the theater space. I was a sound designer for his plays.
Okay.
And then when the pandemic hit, he was he went to film school a bunch of years ago and he was like, I think I want to try and like make a film. And he's like, I see that you're doing sound stuff.
Yeah.
Would you want to come record sound?
Right.
So I did, and it was great. I mean, all the stuff that he writes is like, performance forward.
Okay.
It's like actor centric, and writer centric, but like the story comes through based on the performances of the actors,
Sure.
which sound is like so important for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big like the No Thoughts is
Yeah.
it's just two actors.
I mean, when you
doing
sent it to me, I was like, oh, great. This is like what I love. Like
Yeah.
this is, this is the stuff that I love working on. Because sound is like, so yeah, it's just so critical for that and make sure that the performances come across the right way and the way that the actors portrayed them.
Right. Did you find when you started doing these on-set experiences that your background in sound design and production, just from theater and music, it started to? I mean,
I
don't
actually
know.
think my performance background helped
Really?
me out so much with this. Yeah.
Really.
I mean, the camera stuff is so important for capturing the performance, but like I think that, and maybe I'm biased, but like I think that the sound is more important.
Sure.
I think that if you have a bad audio recording of a great performance, that like it
gonna
really really struggles. It really
Right.
suffers. And as a performer, I knew I feel like I had a pretty good sense of what it was that the performer was trying to communicate,
Right.
and two, I knew how to talk to performers about the way that they're delivering a line or things that they can do in order to make the audio better.
Right. Like enunciation.
Enunciation is a huge one.
Right.
I was on set with, do you know Joy Marzek? She's a director around Philly. She's a great director. And one of her main actors was delivering a lot of lines down. She was just
Mm.
like sort of tilting down. And I spoke with them and I was like, oh, if you like sort of point up a little bit, the boom is going to sound beautiful.
Mm.
And they were like, I never even considered that. I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah.
And then so from there on, they like made a conscious effort to sort of chin up a little bit,
Yeah.
which is something that like Brad Pitt talks about doing on like a lot
Really?
of sets. Yeah, like a lot of like really film trained actors, they know how to work with sound to make
With
sure that
the
their
sound.
performances come across strong.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that I'm finding more and more about as I dive further into the industry. It's just there's so many layers, right? And I mean, and that's
Yeah.
with every industry and everything, but within film specifically, is again, it's you don't even think about the directional, of the boom or whatever. And
Yeah.
then beyond that, which again, I would love to get into post production with you
Yeah,
as
sure.
well. But before we do that, just so you you and Doug,
Mhm.
what was he invited you onto a film set?
Yeah, so he came onto that first set. It was for a film called Endless, which went really, really great. It was theater actors with, he was the writer director, and it was bare bone. We didn't have any lighting, anything like that. And it went really, really well. Like we got into festivals, and like we really hadn't worked. They hadn't worked too hard on it. It was a 2-day shoot.
Yeah.
And we caught the bug, and he did another 1-day shoot. He made a really nice short film in, I think it was 8 hours total. Um, and then I think it was like a 7 or 8 minute short film, which is another great short film that got into some festivals. And after that, oh no, sorry, there was a third one, Whisper in Her Ear. And for that one, that was like a 4-day shoot. Everything is shot here in Philly. Again, theater people, performance forward. And after that shoot, I sort of talked with Doug, and I was like, "Listen, I think your writing is incredible. The people that we bring on they're great performers. You focus on sound, which is something that I absolutely love. And then the only thing that we really need to sort of bump up is our production value.
Sure.
And at this point, I was pretty well into the film scene here in Philly, and I knew people who were great, gaffers, DPs, first ACs. And so I sort of reached out to him and I was like, listen, I'd love to come on as producer, and I'd love to have like the primary focus of taking these elements of the work that we have that's already really strong and just pulling up on the other categories and making it like super strong there. So those things exist in a really high production value project.
Nice.
And we did our first short that I produced on, and we brought on Adam Rebar as DP, Jason Penza as gaffer, Max Collins first AC, Izzy, who was on the show
Oh, really?
recently, did
Yeah.
HMU for us for some of the scenes where he had like bruises and cutting, and we just like it was incredible. We took his great work and just like lifted it up to this super high production value.
Yeah.
Everyone on set was like really excited about the stuff that we were doing.
It's so much fun when you get a set like that where it's kind of, the production value or the skill set that is brought on board is higher than, some of the actors are used to like doing a student film or something like
Sure.
that. They're going on film.org and just being like, all right, what can I do
Yeah,
next? Or
let's see
whatever,
what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when they come onto a set where people are like, all right, let's get the lighting. And oh, this is a nice looking live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, whoa, okay. And it just it harnesses this energy that, again, it comes back to that family aspect of just being like, we're doing something here.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great. We love it. I mean, we loved our time on set. And it just really brought everything that Rabbit had been doing to the next level. So we're at picture lock on that. We're like just jumping into the
Nice.
sound edit.
So that was the first one. So how long ago was that?
We shot that in April.
Okay, so this is a fairly new project
Yeah.
or production company, right?
Yeah, I mean
I don't know if did you get an LC or
it's
whatever?
hard. Well, yeah,
LLC?
it's coming. Yeah, the next one.
Right,
We're gonna be set up with an LLC for the next one for sure.
okay, yeah.
I think technically we coined we coined the name of the company uh in like February or March or something like that.
Okay.
But all the other films that we did together, we just count that under the Rabbit blanket. Yeah, it's cool. I'm
So
excited for that.
are you doing all the sound work on
I'm
that?
doing I'm gonna do the sound design for it, the dialogue edit, the sound design. We work with the Blair brothers, who are a really great composer duo.
Okay.
They have a space set up in the Bach building, but they like
Oh,
compose for stuff that's on Netflix and like really awesome stuff.
nice.
So they're gonna do the score for this one.
Nice.
Um,
So can you? I know you sent it to me in an email, but
the
what is
breakdown of the
yeah
sound design
yeah
workflow.
yeah the sound design 101. When you get a film and it's just the main the camera audio and they have all the audio files and everything.
Yeah, I mean, so the basic sort of I mean, the first thing you do is you take all of the dialogue files and you try and clean them up to make sure that they sound clean, that they like effectively communicate what it is that like, that the actor is saying, and that they're free from like any disruption in the background, like cars going by, stuff like that. There's a lot of, like you can pull from like other takes that are clean if in order to sort of swap in for
I was
things like
wondering if
that.
you did that or not.
A couple times, yeah, for
Okay.
no thoughts,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Which is why it's also good. I don't know, you've ever heard of like wild lines?
I've heard of it a little bit. Where it's like ADR, but not really.
Yeah, it's like ADR it's like saves you from doing ADR. You do
Okay.
it on set, like right after a take. If you know that one part was like a little bit, you just get the actor to say that line perfectly clean into the boom, and then
Right.
you have something you can plug in.
Yeah.
So like that's when that can come into play. But basically, you want to get the dialogue totally clean, and when you listen back to it, all you don't hear any of the sound effects. You don't hear doors closing. You don't hear any of that stuff. All you hear is just the dialogue.
Right.
And then from there, I think usually after that, I go in and I do the sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
So every single thing that has like a sound effect, like you pull out whatever they recorded on set and you just completely build it out from the beginning.
You're really building this entire world. You're building the world within the
Yeah.
movie, you know?
And
great.
it's funny before I started doing post, I was like sound mixing on set, and I used to be like, we need to be really quiet for like this car door closing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't realize, like now I know that like, oh, they're never going to use that.
Yeah.
Because like the sound of a car door closing from a boom that's like 6 feet away
Mm-hmm.
has like reverb on it. It's a little bit distant. And
yeah.
also just this sound design is making it sound the way that the viewer's mind wants it to sound.
Right. Not even how it really is.
Not even how it really sounds.
Yeah.
So like when, like I think I did a quick edit on like a 30-second thing that was like a horror-esque, like it had like a spooky vibe to it.
Sure.
And like, or I think they were like Mob or something like that.
Yeah.
And they closed car doors.
Yeah.
And like the sounds that they had were just like standard car door closing sounds. And I was like, it's missing something. It wants like to be deep. Like it wants to have like some sort of edge to it.
Mm-hmm.
So like you throw in like the low sound of like a metal thud, and like that you put that on there so that it has some bass to it, and then you
wow.
like do the two at the same time, and then you get like a like a like a real nice sort of car door closing sound.
Yeah.
So like the stuff, the real, it doesn't need to be reality. You don't want it to be reality.
Right. You want it to be heightened reality.
Heightened reality. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you even think about a metal thud? You're like, oh, a metal thud, that would sound good with a car door, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of trial and error.
Okay. It's like, how do you come up with your creative ideas like that? That type of question.
Yeah,
it's hard to put into words, right?
It's completely subjective, obviously.
Sure.
There's also not like a ton of formal training when it comes to how to do sound design for stuff like that. But and most really experienced sound designers that I've talked to, when I ask them about things, they're like, do what you think sounds the best.
Yeah.
And it's like, right. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So yeah, I mean, like you just, the metal thud may have been the seventh thing that I tried.
Okay.
The first thing might've been like a bass drum sound. And I was like, no, that's, there's too much like, like leather feel and like from the drum or something like that. And then it's like, oh, let's go back to metal, which is the,
Right.
So yeah, so I mean, like, so you're building out all those sound effects. And those are like the important sound effects, the ones that are like that like help tell the story. And then like one of my favorite parts of the process is the ambient sounds.
Yeah.
So because you've like stripped out all of the ambient sounds from the dialogue recordings, you are building the world, sometimes like 4 to 8 different ambient sounds happening at one time in order to establish an environment. So when you're out in the city, it's
Oh, you
you know,
put in a honk on No Thoughts. That was perfect when they're crossing the
yeah,
street. That didn't even actually happen. She was just running across the street.
yeah,
But it made it the scene. It was just like, oh, yeah, that would be part of what would happen there.
sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even though it didn't. In reality,
And
it
it
didn't.
didn't, yeah. I forget why. I think it was because like the car like rolled through the stop and then had to come a stop in the middle of the intersection, and I was like, I bet that person's pissed.
A dive bar?
It's not just any dive bar, okay?
So that's your favorite part of one of your favorite parts of the
Of that
process?
one?
Well, I mean, of the just the sound design process.
I think so. Yeah, it's because it's really world building.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the stuff at the train station, you're taking these tracks that you have in a sound library that are like 3-minute long tracks of the general sounds that are, that you would hear in like a subway station or a train station. And you need to sort of move them around to make sure that like the sound of like a train going by doesn't happen over an important piece of dialogue. So you're not just building the sound of the space, but you're also moving it left and right in the timeline in order to make sure that it like isn't intruding over the story.
And yet it's still adding some of those heightened reality aspects of emotion. So it's adding to the story if possible.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Or covering up sound mistakes in the
Totally.
translation.
Yeah. And I mean, that's another huge part of it. Like it's super important to know how to use those tools.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that was the part of learning about sound design that really floored me. That like the world was like all the sounds that I was hearing were not real.
Yeah, we're
at
not
all.
real. Yeah, or realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just like not recorded live. Like I always assumed that like when I was watching a TV show and you hear like a construction site in the background and like cars going by, like every car that goes by is like not the sound of that car going by. It's you go into your sound library and it's like truck V8 left to right on gravel in the rain.
Whoa.
And there's there's some that are not in the rain. There's some that's not on gravel. There's some that's in a Mercedes. There's some that's in an electric car. There's an infinite number of different possibilities that you could have for that. And you need to make sure you're using the right one because, the viewer can tell, a hybrid RAV4 sounds totally different from like a Mustang.
That's intense.
And you need to pick the right one for that.
Yeah, the sound is of her stepping on, when she was getting off. I didn't realize we need a floor creak here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why?
And that was fun too. The floor creaks and
it has to be a wooden floor creak.
It has to be a wooden floor creak.
Yeah.
And then like the way that the sort of levels of it change.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I know the sound is
HVAC?
probably killing you right now.
It's okay. I'll let this one slide.
What is that? Is it for heat? We don't even have the heat on.
Yeah.
It just does that?
I think so.
This has never happened before.
Is it? Yeah, it's got to be the heat, right? That's your furnace, I think.
Okay, so here's the thing. If the heat is on, my roommate lost the bet. We had a bet that we wouldn't turn the heat on.
Oh, okay.
Whoever. I'm going to go
So they turned it on?
He must have turned it on.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to turn it on.
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the music.
Oh,
That's
the
next thing that
music.
comes
Okay,
up.
so that's the next layer after you build out the world.
Yeah, I feel like once you build out the ambient sounds, that's about the time when you're ready to show it to the director.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll usually send that over so that it's like, all right, now you're hearing the dialogue edit, you're hearing my first take at the sound effects, and you're hearing my first take at building the ambient sounds of the world. Because from then on, that's when you start layering on maybe some of the more creative sound design elements. If you were doing a horror suspense, there would be like low drones that sort of give the sense of like dread and those sort of things.
So this isn't even the music yet.
No,
Not necessarily.
this is all like the realistic storytelling. Like
Okay.
basically when that thing that I would send over with those 3 elements would be like, this is them saying their lines. These are the practical sounds that you're hearing in the world. And then this is the general sound of the environment around them. These are more of the like objective elements of sound mixing. and really the response back is, usually it's like, like this elevator can sound a little less scary.
Oh yeah.
You know,
That
like,
was funny. That was,
this, like we're on the rooftop and it's like, oh, like the bar feels a little empty.
Yeah.
And it's like, great, I can change, I can put in, a different sound effect that has more chatter. Turn up the sound on the speaker of like the music that's playing in the background a little bit, like the practical music
the
that's
bass.
playing.
That's what
Yeah,
I just
the
wanted.
bass.
I was like, can we just get a song that's no music? I just want the bass.
And
Back there.
that's my buddy Sean, who helped me with sound mixing, is the guy who wrote that song.
Oh really?
So yeah, coming
Okay.
back around. But he, and that was like, we cut it out so that the bass was there. So it's like, it sounds like it's coming from inside and the door is closed. So it's like, great. Like that's a nice way to, to show that we're like outside of the space where the party is happening. And,
Yeah. It was a good transition from onto the roof too.
Yeah. So yeah, once that stuff is set.
Weird, because I mean, like I never even thought about those as being subjective, right? Because you're like, oh, bar music and chatter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you want like aggressively angry people at the bar? Do you want like, just fun light vibes? Do you want like dance party vibes there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Scary.
I mean, I love storytelling, and I think that like it's really important when you're talking with your director to be like, all right, we're on like the rooftop, like, is it pretty quiet? Like, is it a slow night? Is it a Tuesday night?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a Saturday night? Are the five guys at the table that she like talks to before coming over, like, are they like frat bros who are like calling out things in the middle of, the scene? Like, is that the vibe you're going for?
Right. With those, do you have certain sound clips to do that, or would you have to emulate like somebody yelling?
I have
something specific.
There's a bunch. I mean, like I have a hard drive that has way too many sound effects on it. But also there's a lot of subscriptions out there that you pay a monthly thing and you get access to huge libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And with those you can like, you can search for specific things, usually like, guy yelling or something, you type that in and you'll get a bunch of different options and
and you sift through all of them.
You sift through a lot of things, and I think you find them and then you manipulate them. So it's not like you're not just taking those things and plugging them in. It's usually like, I'm going to cut it out so that it's just like this 4-second bit. And then like, sometimes I'll pitch them down if I think the guy's voice is a little bit too high.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound just like a stock sound. You're kind of making it even more specific.
And even just like, I don't have the ability to hire someone to come in and make the sound exactly the way I'm imagining it.
Right.
So you take the stuff that's available to you and you try and, you modify it so that you can have it be closer to what your vision is.
Right.
As opposed to just like plugging it in and saying like, it's a dude yelling.
Right.
There you go, director. That's what you wanted.
Yeah.
So that's,
so you're really trying to, I mean, and that's where, the communication with the director is probably so important, like very, very important at that point.
Yeah, it's really important.
Because it's their vision, right?
Right.
Which again, working with you, this is why I loved working with you, because you kept that in mind throughout the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you said you were sitting in turmoil when you sent it over for me a little bit or whatever.
Sure.
But I mean, I hope that like, I don't know how it is with most people, but when you send over that first edit, I'm like, this is, like I said, you are a god, you know what I mean? Like, you made this whole thing like 10 times better just with one go over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I think I do recognize that like the stuff comes out better for sure. And I feel good about the work that I do. It's always great to hear from the director that they're very happy with it.
Right.
Like I think one of the first things that you sent back to me, the first time I sent you over something to listen to, you were like, this is 50 times better than I ever imagined it could be.
Yeah.
And so from then on, I was like, great. Like,
yeah.
Cool. Like,
yeah.
like now anything I send over, like I felt comfortable to fail with you after that.
Okay.
Because I felt like you trusted me. So I was like, great, cool. So now I'm like, now I'm going to take more risks with the work that I do. Now I'm going to say, you know what? Like I kind of have this idea. Is it okay if I run with it?
Yeah.
And,
I loved that, but it kind of comes back to, and this is another, we were talking about the world of collaboration while you're on a set, and then when you're sitting alone, editing, it can get very isolated and feel very just monotone and like you're by yourself on this project, on this huge project.
Yeah.
But you were like, I have an idea that could potentially, And that I don't think we ended up using it, but I really liked the idea behind it. So I was like, yeah, let's try that. Where it was because the final scene to me from the first edit did feel like it was missing something.
Hmm.
And you suggested this one way to do it, and I was like, wow, that could be it.
Yeah.
Fortunately, after all the other elements came together, we went with the original ending, and it
Yeah.
still worked really well, I think. But again, it's just another area of collaboration that, for me, is creative collaboration always blows my mind.
Yeah, it's great.
Because like I mean I in high school I got a little jaded because I was trying to work on just funny videos with the guy, and
Hmm.
the camera lens always was on, or the memory card got messed up, and
Sure.
so after that I went into just script writing because I could control that, or stand up I could control that, or
Yeah.
podcasting, this is just me, I could control all of that. So it always felt like a vulnerable moment when you allow or trust somebody on a larger process to tell your story.
I- yeah, man. I mean, that's like, and that's it's a skill that I learned or that I like really developed working in theater. Because
Yeah.
in theater you're working
Totally.
together as a team. As a sound designer in theater, I mean, it changes from production to production, but in the general sense, like you get the ability to come in with a strong idea, present it, and make changes to it, and it's an understood aspect of the theater making process that all the artistic contributors will present ideas, and the director will say like yes or no, or I
Yeah.
like what you're going with, like let's try and like twist it this other way. And it's something that I think film can, like the sets that I like to work on are ones where you have that type of collaboration.
Right. Especially, I mean, it's hard when you're on a set, and for me or you, who is a performance based, where that's kind of your foundation is the performance, and you're a sound person or something. You hear the director, or you hear the performance, you see the take, and you're like, I have an idea that could probably help, but I'm not trying to overstep. This is your set.
I've been fortunate to be on sets where the director is cool with me saying things like that. I'll usually start it off with, "Is it okay if I share with
you
you an
ask first.
idea?"
You always
like,
have to ask first.
because there are some sets where it's like, no,
No,
like,
you absolutely don't.
thanks
even
for
talk to
recording
me.
great sound, yeah, but like,
You
but
keep the boom over there.
yeah. And that said, though, I will always give feedback about sound specific things. So things like, if the actor is like grumbling, like we were talking about before,
right, or looking down.
I'll give it not as a performance note, but as a
Sound.
the audience won't be able to hear what they're saying in this moment note. But I think more, like on set, like when you're talking about the like art department and the gaffer and who's setting up the lighting and the DP, like having a director who is open to hearing feedback from those people, and like when DP comes in with like a really strong idea and the director's like, that wasn't my idea, but like go for it.
Yeah.
And it works out, that's trusting your collaborators. Your work is only going to get better if you bring on people who are really skilled at what they do and trusting them to do the work that they do the way that they think it should be done. Those directors they're the best. I feel like they come out with the best work.
Well, and that's again is for me that was some kind of something that I had a bad experience with before, right? Is that creative collaboration. But this No Thoughts was the first time that I really took a risk with trusting people. And each time, like everything that we did, that was an idea from somebody else made. We weren't even the elevator scene was just going to be the single.
Yeah.
And then the sound guy was like, yeah, we should just do like a cut in close up just in case the editor wants to work with something.
Sure.
And that we ended up using that. It worked out beautifully.
Did you do the whole scene in the close up?
No, we just did the end.
Just that end part.
Yeah, we didn't even do the whole scene.
And that's great because it takes a scene that's happening between two people and makes it more intimate.
Yes.
And in that intimate moment,
Right.
it's really important that you cut to the close because,
which is something I should have thought of, I thought of as the director, but
should have, like this is why it's good to have these people on set. It's good to have extra eyes on these things. And, it only makes it better.
Right. So,
and then also you can be like, no, but I mean, we're shooting digital, so it's like, why not if you have the time to go in close?
Yeah.
But like if it doesn't work, then it doesn't make the edit. Like it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although you make the editor's life a little longer,
Yeah.
but we don't have to get into that.
No.
Because, well, I wanted to get back to, so then we, you're building out the actual world
Mhm.
of the film, right? And we were just talking about the communication with the director that you have and these ideas that you have that you feel like you can get a little bit more loose with, especially if you trust the director in those moments, right? And then I don't know how often you compose and do the score. But from, it sounded like you're like, luckily, I was like, do you know a composer? And you're like, well,
Yeah.
fortunately, I do sound.
I
and
do
compo-
actually. I
yeah.
do know a composer.
Yeah. And you kind of just jumped on that. It was beautiful, man. Like the way that you,
Yeah.
again, I didn't know that by the, I didn't know that I laid the foundational trust with that first comment of saying it sounds 50 times better.
Yeah.
But it makes sense now that, like seeing what you did with the score and the, you took a big swing with that first version, which again, I really appreciated and liked.
Yeah.
And then, and then we tweaked it from there, which, we ended up stripping it
Sure.
back a lot.
But that's like, I tried to assure you while this was all happening is that like, that's part of the game, like I'm going to put out, and this happens a lot in theater where, in the theater sound designs where it's like, I'm going to put out a bunch of options. I'm going to put out the ideas that I have. And like, some of them are going to stick and some of them aren't. And like, you pull them back and there's no, right. I say there's no sensitivity about it. There's obviously a little sensitivity about it, but like,
Sure.
but it's a part of the process. And, I feel fortunate to be in situations where I can take those stabs and, and put those things out there. And, you work with the director and you got to make sure that you're achieving their vision at the end of the day.
Right. Well, and I was going to ask is, do you have that? I guess you must have built up that thick skin, right? Because if you're going to take those big swings, like you said, there's a little, in general, it's business. It's not personal, right? Like the director has this, their version of it, and they're signed on to this project to do that version of it.
Yeah.
And so for you to take this big swing with the, the possibility that they might just turn everything down, that's got to be tough.
Yeah. If the music doesn't make it into the final project, then like I got to spend hours making music that I liked. So already we're like a net positive because I just got to make music, which I thought was cool.
That's a great way to think about it. And you could probably use it again if you didn't.
And I have, and actually I think a lot of the stuff that I wrote for yours was like a variation on a theme that I had written for a play that I did, a couple of years ago.
Very cool.
So, like I'm building out my skill set doing that stuff. And like for some of the things did make it in, which I thought were great.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things too, I think you learned through like listening to my music that like the piece called for not being scored. And I think that was the right call. It's tough as a sound, like in my mind as a sound designer, a lot of times I'm often thinking about how can I support the story using the tools that I have, which is sound and music. And sometimes you don't need those tools. But since I'm in the mindset of like how can I use my tools to help this?
Right.
Yeah. So like I try and not think from the director's perspective of like, does this sequence need sound and music to carry it out? Like sometimes I'll get into the mindset of like, how can I use sound and music in order to help this out? And so because of that, I never feel too precious about when the decision is like, oh, we actually don't want music here.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm just throwing like, because maybe the director does think that they want music here. And like, this is what it sounds like when this section is scored.
Right. Yeah, and it was interesting with the the final product. I don't want to get too much into the details because it's not even released yet.
Yeah,
So it's like, but I picked and just chose little things to keep, and you're like, I don't know if that's gonna be really consistent with the whole thing.
Yeah, well, it gets a little weird because like the decisions that you make are contextualized by the other decisions that you make.
Yes.
So. For instance, I had themes that I had written into the first one.
Right.
And like, there were some times where you kept aspects of the theme where like where I originally had them, it would have been like the fourth time the audience member had listened to them.
And
So they would have
recognized it.
they would have had some context for it. It would have been a callback to something that happened earlier in the short.
Right.
And then when you're like, I like that there, and it's like, cool. It doesn't do the thing that I initially intended it to do, but if you like it there, then like, cool.
Yeah.
So that is a very strange part about
Mhm.
when you present a whole complete thing and then it gets stripped away, because it's like, well, now it's like, I don't know how much of it is really the thing that I set out to do.
Right. But it's
Um,
become a different thing
It's become a different thing.
at that point,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, there's just this one little on the roof,
Yeah,
just the
the
one
one note.
piano. I was like, I really like that high note. I know that was like
Yeah.
part of a whole thing before, but just right there in that moment when he has that realization, it was beautiful, very beautiful.
And I agree. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I go back and watch it, and you know, there's obviously a part of me that's like, I still hear the music
Sure.
when I watch it back.
Yeah,
Um,
you can have your version in your mind. You know?
Nice.
You're allowed to have that.
yeah, send me
freedom.
the color, the final color, and I'll throw my music on and put it on my website.
Right.
Um,
I like what you said about you going with the mindset. If somebody asks you to make a score, it's like, oh, okay, how can I use these tools? When
Mhm.
sometimes they didn't even realize they didn't even need to use the tools. That's,
yeah,
that's very, very interesting. Yeah, and then from there, I mean, that's the last step, right? Is the
yeah.
score.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. There's like, I mean, once you get all those elements in there, then it's just like setting levels and, you know, sometimes when you throw the music in, actually, this was something that happened with us.
Okay.
I put the music in, and you know, you responded back saying like, I can't hear the sound effects, like I can't hear
Oh, yeah,
this
yeah.
thing, and I was, you know, I went back in and I raised the level of the sound effects, and then we decided to pull the music out of that part. So I pulled the music out, and you were like, the sound effects are way too loud, and it's like, oh, okay, so like they were quiet because music was playing,
Right.
and you know, so things like that. So there is like a lot of back and forth in the mixing at the final process.
Does that get annoying to you when somebody has like so many notes and goes back and forth?
No, I think I
Okay.
think it comes from a place, like, I'm a perfectionist. I understand, you know, and also too, I have such a micro connection to the piece at that point, because I've been so in it for so long
Right.
that it's really important to talk to people that have a macro sense of it.
Mm.
So there are some times where I'll brush past a sound that's a little bit too soft, and I'll have forgotten the work that I did, you know, at the very beginning in making
Okay.
sure that it was effectively storytelling.
Yeah.
So it's important that the director is like, this isn't storytelling anymore. And it's like, right, you're right. I need to go in and tweak this and pull this up.
Right.
So it's good to have those sort of outside eyes on there to help with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just I just know that there are some sound editors, especially if, maybe that I've heard, I've never had experience with, but I thought the idea was that, you get this version of the sound and then you get like one or two passes after that,
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate about you're just like, yeah, let's like we got to keep it rolling,
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on the budget.
Sure, that's true.
And I think there are, going what we were talking about before about like pre-production and doing all that stuff. Sometimes a lot of those extra rounds of notes are because the director doesn't know what they want, they weren't prepared, or like they had the opportunity to address that situation in a previous notes thing
Mhm.
and they didn't.
Yeah,
So now it's like, hey, like how many times are you going to make me jump back into this,
yeah,
re-export it, send it over to you, wait for feedback?
yeah.
I'm already on to my next project, and I don't have the time for
Yeah,
that.
and that's one thing I learned with color grading as well, which is a
Yeah.
whole other world that I had not considered to be as important as it is.
It's like so important.
It's very,
Yeah.
very important. But it, at this point, after the second one, I wanted in Falling, I wanted the axe scenes to be kind of very like bright, like Wizard of Oz, Pearl, if you've seen
Yeah,
that movie,
okay.
that sort of thing. And he, it's a horror movie. The whole scene is pretty much dark, and then he colored it dark. He colored it, and
Sure.
and I could have been like, hey, this is what I could have sent notes beforehand, so that
Mhm.
way there wasn't that back and forth, and as obvious as it sounds, there's just some things, especially with sound, it's like, okay, this is what I'm going. Think a little bit more thoroughly and give somebody notes ahead of time, so that way
Yeah.
you don't just get something back and, like you said, have to go back and redo it over and over.
Well, and I think it's also the sound designer's responsibility, at least a little bit, and we did this, like one of the first conversations we had was like, let's go through scene by scene.
Yeah.
What are we trying to do here?
Right.
When I remember us like jumping on the phone and I was like, talk me through the whole elevator sequence.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, so it stops Is
Yeah.
it scary? And you're
Yeah.
like, not that scary.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. Like that's important, that I
Right.
could have gone a couple of different directions with it.
Yeah.
When the lights come back on and the door opens, is it jarring? Is it like, silly? Like,
Yeah.
and it, you have to, it's important that the director knows what they want so that the first time you're like taking a stab at it, you're getting pretty close to what it is that's in their realm, as opposed to doing what you think is right and then having them be like, that's not what I was thinking at all.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's still so funny to me to hear that an elevator door is silly. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, no, but it's
but
possible.
it is. Yeah,
you
you're
know?
making this.
We made
thing-
it silly.
We
like
made it
it's,
silly.
You know,
yeah.
it's like a
That was actually in the premiere. One of the
biggest
funniest.
laugh.
Yeah, the biggest laugh was the elevator scene.
That's
which I
awesome.
didn't even expect that to be that one, but
Yeah,
it
I
was
mean,
great.
I forget what the final tweak was, but you were like, I want the bell to go like right as he's leaning in, and then we cut out to the wide, and it's like
That's the jar.
it's like super jarring, and
Yeah.
like now you're just like uncomfortably in like an elevator that has like elevator static sound going, and it's
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. So yeah, I think so. We've kind of talked through. So you're doing this. You've done your first production with, was it Doug?
Yeah, with Doug.
With
yeah.
Doug on this new production company, and it's in the final lock stages right now.
Yeah, we're at Picture Lock. I'm working on the sound. We have a colorist is working on it right now.
Nice.
And we're, I think we're trying to get it done by the end of the year.
Okay.
And we're in the like process of starting work on the next project.
Okay. So you're just constantly you're rolling on these things.
Yeah, I mean, having one in post and like, one on the burners, like getting ready to go feels really good. We're all anxious to get back on set. If this is a bigger project and it takes more time to get the fundraising than we want, I think like, we're just going to get a small crew together and go shoot something real quick just to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I'm working with right now. Is that I've got these two projects, and it was such a whirlwind of a month for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me give myself a break after this. And now I'm like, what do I do with my life?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
no, like I always want like, one thing in post, one thing you're shooting, and one thing, in the works.
Yeah, in the works.
Yeah, like,
yeah, no, that
come
makes
on.
so much sense.
Especially if you're, these people are, these are my friends. These are my good friends that I'm doing this work with. So, the time that I get to spend with them on set is great. It's not work.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just, like you want to keep sharpening those skills
Sure.
and building collaborative communication between the people that you work with.
Yeah.
So even if it's just like, you get your DP and your gaffer has a light day and you get out there and you shoot a 1-day shoot of something, you're building those skills. You're like, yeah, just keeping the momentum going.
Yeah, keeping them. Yeah, and as the Hollywood money people, the suits would say, is making content. You just have to keep making content.
Just keep making it.
Just keep. We don't have enough.
Yeah.
There's never
Yeah,
enough.
there's not enough
There's
content
never
out
enough
there.
content out there.
Yeah, the streamers definitely agree with that. Yeah, definitely not enough content.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. But it's great. It sounds like this lifestyle you decided to take up kind of on a whim, just for money reasons. I don't know. It kind of sounds
The film stuff?
yeah, kind of. And
I mean the rabbit stuff is the passion.
Is the
That's
passion.
like I'd love to
right.
get to the point where where I'm the producer on those sets and I'm fielding big money phone calls and
yeah.
setting us
No,
up with
but
huge
I mean
budgets.
the decision to kind of go into sound, like back in when you
Totally.
moved to Philly or whatever that whole era was, right?
Yeah, it was totally. But I mean, it was about. It's a dual thing. I've never worked at a job where I didn't enjoy my time being at the job.
Mm.
I used to work in restaurants a lot, and I would quit the ones that I hated because, and even if they, I was making more money there, it's life's too short.
Yeah.
And so I would always, I was really attracted to, restaurants where like the chef was the owner, or
Yeah.
like where you
Yeah, that
knew
is cool.
you knew the owners and they lead with respect. And so I worked at a ton of great restaurants like that here in Philly, in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just I knew I wanted to find a work solution where I would be able to sort of set myself up for financial success in the future while also being something that I would really enjoy.
Mhm.
And I feel like I struck gold finding sound mixing.
I mean, seriously, yeah.
Yeah.
Within a year, I mean, I don't think there's any other position on a film set that you can really turn
That you
around an
could-
entire career within a year. you know?
Yeah, and not only that, the part of the job, one of the sort of secret parts of the job that I didn't really consider before getting into it is that like my wife always says like I'm the kind of person who I go to a party and I meet someone new and I can talk to them about for like an hour about the things that they're interested in,
Yeah.
and like just new topics that I don't know about are like really excites me, and I love that.
Yeah. Have you heard of my podcast?
Oh yeah. Articulate, right?
Right.
I'll have to check it out, man.
Yeah.
It's on Apple Podcasts, right?
Yeah, right.
But I get to go on documentary shoots for things that are super interesting to me, and I get to witness some of the most powerful, like the really beautiful things that you see on documentary. Like I get to be there with the primary subjects and like
Yeah.
meet their families and I mean I'm a big football fan, so like I get to go to like football stadiums and I'm on the field when the games are happening, and like you get to see these players that are like on my fantasy football team, and it's like that's him right there, like
Yeah.
that's and I get so many cool opportunities like that, just to be in the presence of like these really interesting things. Because I feel like the general rule of thumb, if a camera is rolling, hopefully it's something interesting.
Yeah.
So like if I get to be near something interesting every day
Right.
that I'm rolling sound.
Right, and so that's kind of what I was. So you had this idea of the lifestyle that you wanted to live, right? Back in when you were still kind of waiting tables and doing
Yeah.
half. And I think there was some intention, right? There was intention for financial security or whatever, but also it sounds just like genuinely like you wanted to do the things that you wanted to do, and it's ended up becoming a lucrative path.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I think there was a part of me that was like, I'm gonna try this out, and like it may be clocking in, clocking out, but the money might be good,
Sure.
but then I ended up loving it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I think there's a possibility that if I didn't love it as much as I do, that I would have maybe bailed on it, or actually, you know what, I probably wouldn't have been as successful.
Yeah.
A huge part of the job is professionalism
Mm.
and like who you are on set. You want people to like who you are.
Right.
So
That was what kind of Izzy's one of her big points was is it's like I want to be somebody that people like on set,
Yep.
regardless of how I do that. Like you're gonna want to work more with somebody that you like on set than
totally.
Yeah.
Like leading with as a sound mixer, you have the most like the most intimate moment with these actors. Like putting on a lav is a pretty invasive thing.
Yeah.
And like if you are
Weird.
quiet, you know what I mean? Like a lot of sound guys, like they have the sort of reputation of being like, the guy who eats lunch in their car by themselves when everyone else is having lunch. And
Yeah.
I always sort of like I make a point of like establishing a relationship with the people that I'm going to be putting labs on if I can
Sure.
before I do that. And what you find is when you're on like a narrative set like that and you lead with respect and even go too far sometimes where they're like, it's fine, like go for it,
Yeah.
that you get to day two and if a lav is sort of rustly, you can
Mhm.
go up there and they're just like, psh, like go for it, like you're all good, like you've built that relationship.
Sure.
And like that's a huge part of the job.
Mm.
So much of it is just like it has nothing to do with like the sound quality and the type of gear you have. So much of it is just being able to negotiate with the director on set and being respectful to the other people that you're working with.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I'm glad that you found this passion within this thing that you kind of decided to do on a whim.
Yeah,
it's
great.
just to try it out. And I like I said, I really love the way that you work. Again, I randomly got connected with you.
Yeah.
Very randomly.
Like
and
Leslie, right? Was it Leslie Tran?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, and it was just a godsend. I mean, I do want to wrap up here, but before we wrap up, I did want to bring up how beautiful the moment was when I was trying to find a Michael Jackson type song to start off the movie. It's the opening of the movie, basically. And it's the opening scene revolves around a Michael Jackson impersonator that I've seen multiple times in downtown Philly.
Is it a real?
He's a real guy.
Oh, I had no idea. I thought that was an actor.
Oh, no, it's an actor playing a real guy that does that.
Okay, so it's based on a real guy.
Yes, it's based on a real guy.
Okay,
right.
cool.
But we can't.
We should have had him do the vocals.
Yeah. No, seriously. But he, so it was like, I wish I could get Billie Jean here, but that's $1,000 for a 1-year festival use ticket,
Yeah.
So I was like, let's just go. And you created like an actual Michael Jackson-y type song, and I'm like, that's not even like, it was based off of the actual instruments and sounds that he made. I'm like, that's not really what. You're like, do you just want Billie Jean? And I'm like, yeah, kind of. And you're like, well, let's do a parody of it. And, and then you came up with the lyrics like that, dude. Like, it was magic.
That's low key one of my favorite things in the world is like stupid puns and like coming like I used to throw my two buddies and I, when we lived together in Brooklyn, we used to throw like a holiday party and we would come up with the stupidest names for like the cocktails. And that was always my favorite part of the whole time. It was just like coming up with like stupid ideas, coming up with like lyrics like that. It's just one of my favorite things.
Yeah. No, so I worked the Philly cheese. I'm gonna use that song as the intro and the outro.
Nice.
So I hope you know that.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for the work that you
Thanks
put
for having
into
me.
that.
This is great.
And for coming out and everything. Do you? I don't know if you want to shout out like your Instagram or like the production company and everything.
The production company is Rabbit Rabbit.
Keep an eye out for this movie.
Yeah, Lazy Bones.
Lazy Bones.
We'll be hitting the festival circuit, so hopefully that'll be like early next year. You can find me on Instagram at Tom Carman Sound.
Yeah.
And I have a website, tomcarmansound.com.
Yeah. And
check out my stuff. And a new logo.
Yeah.
That'll be coming out soon.
That's cool.
Hopefully you'll see some stickers on some pelicans around the city once I start handing them out. So.
We will. We'll keep an eye out. All right, man. Well, thanks again. I'll give you a little knuckle touch. We'll wrap it up.
Awesome.
That's my order. It's just a steak. I get mine with onions and cheese with